Hello, everybody. Happy New Year. It's 2018, and welcome to the first episode of the year of DFW Spotlight on Business. This is Heidi Hardy. I am your host, and I couldn't be more excited about being here with you today. My guest today is Evan Sanchez. Evan, thank you for being here.
Absolutely. Happy New Year.
Happy New Year.
Yeah.
I keep saying that, and I really enjoy that. So maybe a couple more days.
I'm going to say it all week. Yeah.
For the rest of the year. We'll just say Happy New Year. Lots of good energy going on so far. I don't know, it's the 3rd of January. So lots of exciting things.
Everyone is telling me that, hey, people are finally wanting to talk again. Over the past month, it was, can we talk about this next month? Can we talk about this after the holidays? So, everybody's kind of hit the ground running, I think.
And, that's true, especially from a salesperson standpoint. So today's topic is called The Psychology of Sales. And I call it that because it ties into your new book, Sell Like a Champ. And we'll talk about that today. I will tell you that these episodes, the most popular, are about new business development and sales, and why sales is, there's some people succeeding and some people that are struggling. So really can't wait to sort of get into the topic with you. And again, thank you. I have a couple of housekeeping things that I like to do. And if you are new to our show, I put the show together in September of last year. And because I'm a professional in the DFW area, one of the things that I enjoy doing is talking to business owners, and business owners are they have an amazing story, and most of the time there's the stories of challenge and of success and all those ups and downs that you expect in business ownership. So I enjoy bringing business owners, experts on the show with me and helping our DFW business community prosper, so that everyone it benefits from that. So whether it's sales or marketing, we talk about a lot of different topics here at DFW Spotlight on Business. So a little bit of a new commercial. This is a real life media production. And, just not necessarily a commercial, but I was talking to a colleague, and he was saying that he has an hour commute back and forth to his job. And one of the things that he said, and this was, I don't know, months and months ago, he had said, well, I listen to podcasts. That's what I do. And I thought about it because I'm a huge podcast fan, and podcasting is a way to really get into your niche market and tell your story. There's no commercial breaks there. Somebody who really wants to know what you do is tuning into your podcast. So Real Life Media is is a company that can help you produce mini-series podcasts. And so we want you to consider audio content marketing in your strategy for 2018. Go to www.reallifemedia.llc.com and shoot us an email or fill out our contact sheet there, and we'll be happy to talk to you about how we can get your personal podcast set up for you for 2018. So thank you, Real Life Media, for producing and sponsoring our show. We also encourage you to go to Facebook /DFWSpotlightOnBusiness.com and just follow us and like us and help us grow our audience. Twitter, Heidi_Hardy, and just, like I said, give us some feedback. We love feedback, and I know my guests do as well. So anything we can do to make the show better for you guys. All right. Well, Evan, one of the things that we normally do is a segment, and the segment is about what's happening in this industry, in the sales industry. And I usually pull up an article from Forbes or Entrepreneur Magazine, and then we talk about it. You have so much information and just expertise that I would just like to talk a little bit about your view, or your, I guess, what you're seeing in in this market segment, in this industry, from your point of view.
Well, it was interesting listening to you talk about the podcast and having people listen on their way to work. Back in my day, I used to listen to Zig Ziglar in CDs.
Absolutely.
And that was on my drive from, what was it? I was living in North Fort Worth and driving to my Monday sales meeting with the Dallas Business Journal.
Oh,
and
wow.
so
Yeah.
sometimes that was an hour and a half drive.
Yep.
You're lucky here if it's 45 minutes.
Yep.
And even better if it's less than that. So, that's one thing that's changed, is that there's so much more media. There's so many more messages. There's so many ways to reach people. But then there's also so many other ways that people are bombarding the buyers. And so, getting buyers to interrupt their attention, take their attention off of what they think is important, getting them to listen to you from the seller's world, right? Where you have a quota and you have a boss who says, you must get out there and put in this type of activity, and you have to talk to this many people so you can sell these many deals. I think that's a lot harder than it used to be, where we say, oh, but wait a minute, we have so much more access to them. We have LinkedIn and we have all these different tools. Well, yeah, but there's this thing that I call the craposphere.
I think I know what that means, but you could tell us.
Right. And you have to break through the craposphere.
Yeah.
I mean, years and years ago, there was a few TV channels. Years and years ago, there was a few popular radio stations. Now everything just keeps exploding and multiplying and multiplying and multiplying. The craposphere is getting deeper and deeper.
It is.
Yeah.
It is. It is. I love that phrase. And really, it's the first time I've heard it. Great description.
Yeah.
About, media, social media, just media in general.
Yeah. So business owners are trying to weed their way through that, right? And at the same time, business owners are looking for solutions to grow their business. Business owners are open to new technologies. Business owners are open to good conversations as long as there is a new return on their attention.
Okay.
Right? So if I'm going to give you my attention, it's got to be worthwhile. And I know that from being a business owner myself, right?
That's right.
When I have people call me and tell me, we do appointment setting. I'm like, great, I know 5 people that do that.
Yeah.
I've hired 3 of them before. You better tell me your secret sauce or we're done, right? And I think that that's what we've gotten to. I think that the buyer is so much more educated because of the online resources and access to information and podcasts or what have you, that the seller now needs to say, so tell me what you know about what you're looking for. What alternatives have you already considered, so that you actually know where to start the conversation? Because a lot of times I'm going, oh my gosh, we're 10 minutes in and you're preaching to the choir.
Yeah.
Like, you've already sold me. I agree the situation needs to be resolved. Can you get to your solution, please?
Everything you just said sort of turns our industry upside down a little bit. I mean, or it's shifting, the paradigm shift out there. I appreciate everything that you said, because as a sales professional, and I've been doing it for many years, there's been these philosophies, get out, Wolf on Wall Street, get them, go get them. And then be the people person, be the relationship person, because that's what people want. And sometimes people don't want that.
Sometimes they don't. They're like, oh my God, I'm tired of talking to you about your kids, right? Your kids are not interesting to me. I'm talking about my business.
Exactly.
here,
Exactly.
right?
Or, you find what do you think about the salesperson that walks in and doesn't have an opinion about anything? And, the business owner wants their expertise.
Well, I worked for a large consulting company, and it was funny that during that time, there was a shift that went on. And the shift was that this consulting company asked a lot of questions. That was part of their process, is that they would facilitate you coming to an epiphany or resolving some type of issue. And it was interesting that you would get in front of a certain type of buyer, and then the other buyers, they were like, why don't you just tell us what to do?
Yeah.
And, you know, that was part of my feedback to my salespeople. I was like, look, they don't want to be facilitated. They don't want to be walked through. They actually want to be told what the best alternatives are, and then have some type of, you know, testimonials or anecdotal data, you know, somebody that they can call and reference, and then say, hey, is this worth doing? And
Right.
they're literally wanting to move that fast, where, you know, some styles of the behavior style of the salesperson may be to facilitate a long conversation where they can really understand, and the buyer doesn't want it. Vice versa. You may have a buyer who does want a facilitated conversation where they do want options, and they want you to help lead them through without putting pressure on a particular alternative. So, you know, part of getting through the craposphere, whether it's your value proposition, whether it's your marketing medium, the direction that you're going, is making sure that you're appealing to all of those behavioral styles. And I know that a lot of people talk about that, and they talk about personalities, and they talk about what color are you, what hat do
Mm-hmm.
you wear, you know, there's all these different words, but what's different is the application of that,
And
right?
that is what we're talking about today with you, because that's where your
Yeah,
expertise comes in.
right.
Um,
And
I
I think that's unwavering, right? That's where I was going with this, is that we've got all this stuff and all these things going on. But at the end of the day, if you can connect with the person and you can actually identify what it is that they're looking at and go directly to that, now you're going to get a return on their attention.
I like that phrase as well. Return on their attention. I know I'm a professional in this community, and my job is to meet with as many people as I possibly can to talk about Insperity, to talk about, different solutions.
Right.
Now, this is a question we have a few more minutes. This is a question I've been wanting to ask a sales expert. One of the things that I can see, again, dozens of business owners, I get the pleasure of doing that monthly, is they have three main things that are just keeping them up at night. And that's kind of an overused cliche phrase, but really, literally in the back of their mind, they know they have to do something about. One is technology. Whether, they're spending too much, are they not spending enough? Are they behind? What do they have to do to get ahead, to get with the competition? Technology is a big part
Absolutely.
of the business. So technology is one of those things where they bring up almost all the time in their business. Another one is people. I have to hire more people. I got to let some people go. I need to pay for health insurance. And so there's that. But the number one thing that comes up when I'm talking to business owners is new business development, is marketing and sales. So my question to you is, in my experience, everyone asking that question, where are they getting their answers today, in your opinion?
Really, there's so many people, again, telling them that they've got the latest solution and the new thing that they need to do. I actually, I find it funny because I've found ways to improve businesses outside of just sales. Now, I'm also a sales guy, right?
Mm-hmm.
So, I love the saying, nothing happens until somebody sells something. Well, you can have the greatest idea in the world, and you can have the greatest startup idea in the world, but people want to see some kind of traction, right?
Right.
So the first thing is you have to have some type of value proposition that interrupts people, right? There's some type of an emotional tug or tie-in to what's keeping them up at night. So once you have that message, there's your marketing, right? So your marketing then becomes about, well, what's the brand promise? What's the differentiator, right? Do you really have something truly compelling that's going to get somebody to stop in their tracks, that's going to allow you to pique their interest and get them to pay attention to you? I mean, that's the first step of the sales process, and making sure that your brand promise is something that you can then actually deliver upon.
Right.
So now from an operations standpoint, and this is where technology and processes and things like that come into play, can you actually do what you say? Because if you can do something 5 times faster than what the competition is doing, that better be in your brand promise,
Yeah.
right? Then you have the experience. So, all of this goes together to create the ideal customer experience. But my my point around the culture is that you have to have people that can deliver upon that experience.
Right.
Right. I always say in sales, nobody wants to meet with the sad, angry, depressed salesperson. You know,
And then that could be,
I get really pissed off. You want to have lunch today? Ah, really want to get something off my chest. Nobody wants to meet with that salesperson.
No.
And nobody wants to deal with that person when they're calling in a customer service either.
Right.
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 They want to hear some kind of, well, that really sucks for you, but that's our policy. Nobody wants to hear that either.
No.
You're not going to win any business there either. So it's much more complex than that. And so many times, right, it's easy for the business to say, well, these damn salespeople, they're just not selling anything. Where's their activity? And, you've been in sales long time.
I have.
I'm sure you've probably been somewhere where you had a really good deal and the company lost it for you.
Yeah. Ouch.
Right?
Yep.
And that stings. And so there's this dual responsibility that goes into play. And, we talk about that a little bit in our book around the behaviors of top 10% or sales champs, in that nowadays you have to be professional externally and internally. So not only do I have to be nice to my customers, but I also have to be nice to the people internally, which is different. Because you have so many different things that are going on. The businesses have so much more technology. We rely on technology. If I'm a sales guy and I got to have my client list and my computer goes down and I'm not a very nice guy, I can't expect for technology to get me up and working real fast.
Right. Right.
So there's all these other different considerations. But the reason I started Springboard Consulting and named it what I did, and we focus on sales, is because that's how we get through to people. Because people will say, yeah, how can you help me with sales? Yeah, how can you help me grow
exactly
revenue?
The question.
This healthcare expenses, I'm not going to have to worry about healthcare expenses if I don't have any employees because I don't have any sales.
Absolutely. Thank you. Absolutely. Absolutely. Yeah. And that is almost verbatim what the conversation is, thanks, Heidi. I appreciate your time, and can you help me with sales? Do you have any suggestions? Anyone I can talk to? And so it is nice to have somebody like you as a colleague and someone that I can refer to. But I appreciate everything that you said, because the craposphere, which again I love, is getting more crowded. And when a business owner finds that resource, and that can be a person, it can be a piece of technology, it's a resource.
Yep.
They really appreciate it. They hang on to it. They tend to have some loyalty because it has changed their life, their business world. And so there's a lot of stories out there like that. And one of the things that I want to do before we go to our first break, which we're about to do, is, Evan, you are the CEO of Springboard Consulting, correct?
Yes.
And you own that business, so you're a business owner.
Absolutely.
You're feeling everything we're talking about.
Yeah. I've been an entrepreneur more than I was a W-2 employee
at
this point.
And I'm fascinated with people that, that have that drive in them from an entrepreneur standpoint. You also just wrote this book, Sell Like a Champ, and that's where we're really going to focus in. So don't leave us during this break. One of the things we're going to do when we get back is Evan's going to tell us about his journey, his story, who he is, and then we'll get to know him. We'll get to know what he can help us with. And you're listening to DFW Spotlight on Business. This is Heidi Hardy with Evan Sanchez. We'll be right back.
Welcome to today's Biz Moment, brought to you by Insperity, inspiring business performance. Today, let's talk about ways to keep yourself and your company out of trouble by avoiding these 5 legal pitfalls related to interviewing. And number 1 is pick the right place. Be cognizant of where you hold interviews. Interview candidates in an open area, a conference room with the door half open, or a room with windows to eliminate uncomfortable scenarios. It protects you and the potential employee if other people can see you and your behavior. Number 2, choose the right time. Don't hold interviews at off times when no one else is around, such as 6 a.m. or 6 p.m. Yes, it can be difficult for a candidate who is currently employed to meet you during business hours, but it is important for other employees to be in the office with you. You can also have future teammates sit in on all or a portion of the interview. Can I get a witness? It's important. Number 3, Ask the same questions of everyone. Think through the most important functions of the job to be filled, then shape your questions. You want to ask questions that help you assess which candidate has the skills and behaviors best suited to fill the position. Maintain a form or checklist. Hello, I like to check things off lists of the questions you will ask, making sure to focus on the job's essential functions. Number 4, keep the conversation professional and relevant. Don't let the interview drift too far or too long into personal tangents. For instance, I was interviewing this person the other day, and he was telling me how he went to a theme park and he was on a roller coaster and he got sick. And that is totally an example of an irrelevant personal anecdote. And those can make candidates uncomfortable, distract you from your task of finding a new team member, or open you up to allegations of inappropriate conduct later. So just, cut those out. Number 5. Root out your own biases. Accusations of discriminatory hiring can damage your company. Also, it's just not a good practice. Recognize that it's unlawful to make a hiring decision based on an individual's race, sex, national origin, color, religion, age, or disability. Your job as a hiring manager is to identify the best person to fill the job, not to find the person who best fits your preconceived notion of who should have the job. Think on that for a minute. While you're doing that, stay tuned for more Insperity Biz Moments, business tips for savvy leaders. For more like these, visit the Insperity blog at insperity.com.
And welcome back. This is Heidi Hardy. You are watching DFW Spotlight on Business, the first of 2018. So excited to be here. And I'm here with a fabulous guest, Evan Sanchez. Thank you for being here.
Happy New Year.
Evan is the CEO of Springboard Consulting. He's also an author, and he has a new book that he's authored, and we're going to talk about that here today. Funny, during the break, I was like, Evan and I get on the phone and we can talk about sales all day long. I think we do some of the same things and or have the same experiences. So what I'm hoping to do today for the audience, whether it's you're watching today or you're going to watch it on YouTube or anywhere else, is to give you an idea of where you can go and how you can get some answers to the questions that must be hitting you at the beginning of every year. What are my salespeople doing? How do I empower them? How do I make more sales? There's just a lot of complex pieces to the sales engine in even if it's a small business to those 5,000 employee businesses. It's an engine for sure.
And there's common themes for both sizes.
Absolutely.
One of the things that I've noticed is that it doesn't matter if it's a little different as a solopreneur, but once you get to where you have about a team of 5 or more, you're going to have very similar issues as a CEO of a Fortune 500 company would have.
I have tons of questions for you, but what I want to do is I want to connect the audience to you specifically today because you have a great history and background and bio, and I'm going to read. I like to read some of the information that you've shared with me. Evan Sanchez is the CEO of Springboard Consulting, a management consulting firm based out of Flower Mound, Texas. His intuitive flow, little quotes there, coaching psychology has been implemented in leadership and sales skill development programs, corporate wellness, and executive coaching, producing performance revenue increases of 47% on average. Very, very good. The high performance mindset is currently outlined in his new book, Sell Like a Champ, that focuses on building the top mindsets, tool sets, and skill sets for peak performance in sales. With more than 25 years as an entrepreneur, sales professional, personal trainer, coach, and as a former member of semi-professional Albuquerque Gunners soccer team, Sanchez knows all about setting goals, and the champion mindset necessary to achieve new levels of success. You can find more about Evan on his website, and that's www.selllikeachamp.com. Very good stuff on there. And you do have a bachelor's degree from the from Texas Tech, which my son went to Texas Tech. Good for you. And the University of North Texas. And this is the part that I think we'll talk about a little bit more, but you've been the owner or co-owner of 3 businesses. You've also been the director of sales and marketing, a senior consultant with global consulting firm Kipner Trago, sales manager at Lands American Title, and sales director at the Dallas Business Journal. That's a hard gig.
Which one?
Okay, you're right. They're all hard gigs. And he lives happily here in the DFW with his wife and children. Welcome again.
Yeah. Thanks for having me.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah. We were talking before the break just about that question that business owners always have. And that is, I need to increase my sales. How do I do that? You gave us some great nuggets of information. What I'd like to do now is hear your story. 25 years as an entrepreneur. When did it start? Why?
Why is always the big question.
I love
right?
the why question.
Start with the why.
Yeah.
Why, I think a lot of it has to do with just my own behavioral style, right? And I don't know if you've ever done the Strength Finders assessment.
I have done many of those, yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, one of my strengths is command. So I'm one of those people that will stand up and say, okay, well, if nobody knows what to do, I'll tell you what I'm going to do.
Okay. That's a great.
And I think it's a leadership trait, right? And when you have something like that and you have, a good enough level of confidence, you have enough ambition, if you see something that's in your way, you're going to find a way to get over that barrier. And I think that's something that has always been a part of me. I think in some ways it's a detriment, like, when you have to have a knee replacement at 18 years old because you've been hurting your knee over and over and over, but you love playing soccer so much that you just keep on playing and you rip out a couple ligaments and they tell you to take a break and you're like, no, I'm fine. I can go back in. I'm good. And I go back in, I keep on playing all the way until they say, you need a knee replacement now. You're not any good. Right. So that kind of stuff can be bad for you.
Right.
But think about applying that to the world of sales.
Sure.
And you're going to hear no's and you're going to have people tell you no, and you're going to have ups and you're going to have downs. And I think, for me becoming an entrepreneur, it was really about, not wanting to work for other people.
Okay. And that is common. And that's
one
okay.
thing.
Absolutely.
But also knowing that you have control of your own destiny.
Right.
Right. I can go out and if I can generate revenue or I can start a business and I can make this happen, I actually have more control of my future. Mm-hmm. And, sadly to say, I believe, and this is one of the reasons I wrote Sell Like a Champ, I think that is going to be more and more and more the norm. As these larger companies start to adopt AI, as they start to adopt other types of technology, you see, the minimum wage has gone up in a lot of states, right? The beginning of 2018. And so you're going to see businesses looking for different ways to automate and reduce the amount of people that they have. And I've been at big companies where there's been big salespeople, the ones that were performing at the very top, and sometimes making more than the president or the owner, and suddenly conversations start to happen about, well, why is that?
Right.
And they start looking for different ways to split up territories. They start looking for different ways to, maximize. Regardless, as businesses continue to look for ways to cut costs, at the end of the day, human capital is a cost. And if they can find a way to automate that, what a human can do, then that job is going to go by the wayside. Now, does that mean that other opportunities will be created that maybe we don't have a skill set for right now? Absolutely, right?
Right.
But for people that are middle-aged, right, have a little bit of experience, a lot of times it's hard to actually be preparing for those at the same time that we're earning a living. So blended learning, I think, is just that much more important than it used to be. And I think that everybody needs a side gig. I think everybody needs a parachute plan, right? Because you never know when the axe is coming.
I love that. No, I absolutely agree. And in fact, I tell stories about, those people that have worked for American Airlines or Southwest Airlines for 25 years and they have this great retirement, but they're not done, right? They're 50, 55, 60, young,
yeah,
and they're not done. And their question to the world and to themselves is, what am I going to do next? Well, own a business, start
Yeah.
something. You know, what is your passion?
Yeah.
And it's more feasible than it ever has been. It's more possible than it ever has been. But so let's talk about you again for a moment, though. You've carried on a lot of sales weight at some of these companies. Is that different than working for yourself?
No.
Tell me the difference. That was a quick answer. Okay, so you were the director of sales for a large consulting company,
Right.
and now you own your own consulting company. What's the difference between those two things? That working for somebody and then owning your company from a salesperson's perspective.
Well, I think working for somebody, my first real sales job, I believe, was working for the Dallas Business Journal. I started out as an account executive, and they offered me a small amount of money for 3 months. And if I didn't sell something at the end of that 90 days, my base salary that they had given me dropped down to something that nobody could live on.
Right. I remember those days. I do.
So if you had, enough, if they gave you some key accounts and you had enough pipeline developed and they believed in you, you made it past the 90 days, right? If none of those other things happened, you didn't make it past the 90 days and you weren't getting paid enough to make it.
Right.
So you had to go do something else. Well, then I was also a personal trainer in college, and I was also a bouncer in college. And the bouncer thing didn't pay enough money, but at least I got to let some really good people that worked at restaurants in. So then when I had to go eat during the week, they let me eat for free,
Right,
and then
right.
I got them into the club on the weekend, or didn't throw them out or something. This whole bartering in the college days.
You
But
bet.
so you kind of you learn how to provide value in different ways.
Mm-hmm.
And then when you get into the world where, somebody's giving you a job and then you realize that job still really isn't paying you, then that whole idea of, well, wait a minute, maybe I could do this better, starts to pop into play. So Dallas Business Journal was awesome because it was what I considered my first real job, right? I got sales training there.
Yeah.
Before that, I was a personal trainer. I had my own business before that. And, I had good days and I had bad days. Well, when I went through sales training, I realized that, there's this thing called a process.
Yeah.
And you know what? Those days when it was a good day, I actually did that process intuitively. But when I had a bad day, I wasn't doing that process. So,
Right.
wait a minute. Now I can start to predict whether it's good or bad. Now you're starting to get into some of the things that are needed for performance,
Right.
right? And how to improve sales. So there's this whole knowing versus not knowing, right? You don't know what you don't know. You have to figure those things out to kind of get to that next level. Well, the more of those things that I got exposed to in the world of the Dallas Business Journal and then working for a Fortune 500 company, at least I had this whole background around sports psychology and having my own personal training company, and I had already developed the coaching psychology. So when I started working for these other companies, I already had this philosophy, this codified psychology that I had applied to my clients in the physical realm, not necessarily the leadership and the sales and the organizational development realm.
Right.
So no matter what I learned as far as sales, no matter what I learned as far as leadership, no matter what I learned as far as team building and talent development, those types of things, I always had a different view. I always had my own lens, which was intuitive flow, that I looked at that through and how could I modify it? How could I optimize it? How could I adjust it? And going back, that's the way I played soccer. So all of these mindsets, all of these things all came from that. And as I continued to perform in the top 10% levels at many of these jobs, that's when I really started to realize, and why I wrote Sell Like a Champ, is that you can give people all the sales training and you can give them all the product and service knowledge to go out and sell. But you still have A players, B players, C players, and D players. And in sales management training, they say, well, how do you improve them? Well, they say more product and service knowledge
Right.
and more sales skills. So people get bombarded with sales skills. Well, after about your third or fourth sales training as a salesperson, you're like this. Oh, God, this again? Are you kidding me?
Yeah.
Right.
The
So-
effectiveness. Yeah.
Yeah, and it all goes back to the application, but it also, the differentiator is the thinking. right? It's the mentality. It's how do they take that information? How do they tweak it 1 to 2 degrees, put it into what they're doing now, and 10x the results? When you look at that world of sales and going through commissions and the whole nervousness of, am I going to make it? Once you've had that and you've done that, it's very easy to be an entrepreneur.
I completely agree. Everyone that has a business or a side business or have had a business before, I think it's much harder to be your own boss. And that's the question, why? And, it's like I said, it's common to just enjoy working for yourself, looking at a bigger picture like you described and saying, well, I could be doing this for myself. I enjoy this company
Right.
and their 401k.
I'm barely surviving now.
Yeah.
It can only get better from here.
Well, and I will tell you, and we're about to take our next break, that at the end of the day, we are all selling something, and if you can figure out how to hone in on those skills and put a process in place, it makes what you're doing a lot easier. And being an entrepreneur is being a salesperson.
Right. And so the first part is believing in yourself, right? I've got to have this mentality that I can overcome any obstacle that comes in front of me. And I do have to have those skills, and I do have to have those processes, and I do have to put the technology in to allow me to be more productive and to play at a higher level. But it's all of those things.
Yeah.
Right? It's not just one. It's not just more sales training. And that's where a lot of organizations fail.
I completely agree. So we're going to go to break. When we get back, we're going to dig right into the Sell Like a Champ book. We're going to talk about the 3 personalities, sales personalities, correct?
Yeah, portraits.
Yeah, portraits of a salesperson. You don't want to miss this. It's really great information. You're listening to DFW Spotlight on Business. This is Heidi Hardy. We'll be right back.
Welcome to today's Biz Moment, brought to you by Insperity, inspiring business performance. Today's topic is walking you through the steps to take before deciding to terminate an employee. Remember, this is all before you decide to terminate. And number 1 is write down everything. Documentation is key. If you don't write something down, it can be argued that it didn't happen, even if it did. Even informal conversations written in a notebook about an employee's performance can be helpful and count toward documentation. So do it, take the time. Number 2, clearly communicate expectations. For every job, you should have a job description. As a manager, you should have a solid understanding of the functions and responsibilities of each role on your team. And it's essential, and probably just as important, if not more, that your employees know this too. What is my job? Here it is in writing. Number 3, be a good coach. Notice this is all on you, managers. Informal but regular feedback should consist of what's right as well as what's wrong. And just like a football coach who gives praise for a good pass or a solid tackle, but also points out the miscatches and holes in the defense. Your employees need this feedback before you get to the point of considering disciplinary action or termination. Number 4, conduct a written counseling. If things are getting really bad, it's time to make a more formal move. A written counseling should provide specific examples of performance deficiencies and outline areas that employees need to correct in detail and give specifics on how this should be accomplished. It should also communicate that the improvement needs to be 1, immediate, and 2, sustained. After discussing it in person, employees should sign the form to indicate that they have received the counseling. Stay tuned for more Insperity Biz Moments business tips for savvy leaders. For more like these, visit the Insperity blog at insperity.com.
And welcome back. This is Heidi Hardy. You are watching DFW Spotlight on Business, and DFW being Dallas-Fort Worth, this thriving, wonderful community that we have here. We have the CEO of Springboard Consulting, Evan Sanchez, with us. Thank you.
Thank you for having me. Having fun.
Yeah. So when people come on my show, that they're like, "Oh, we're going to sit there and talk for an hour," I'm like, it goes by fast. It does. So we don't have that much more time. So I
I
really
would be
want.
concerned if I were you, because I'd be going, "Are you that boring? I mean, an hour? This goes by pretty quick."
I know. I think it's intimidating, but for the most part, we just have a lot of fun and conversation. And when I get feedback from people,
Crown and Seven would also help. If you're looking for suggestions, feedback.
Absolutely, Crown. If you want to sponsor the show, I'm down. Let's talk about your book. Thank you, by the way. Evan is an author, and this is not your first book.
Yes, it is.
Oh, this is your first book.
I've written some white papers. We've done workbooks. We've done trainings. We've done all these different things to monetize our thought leadership.
Mm-hmm.
But I had never taken the time to put it all into a book. So this is my first one. Now, that said, there's like 3 or 4 more that are right after it.
Absolutely. It is a huge endeavor to write a book. I don't care what anybody says. Getting those thoughts and it's emotional. There's so much to it. So congratulations on your book.
Yeah. My wife would like a refrigerator full of wine actually to deal with the next one. So she's like, "Really? There's a next one?" I'm like, "Yeah, sorry, honey."
I know. And I think it's a personality thing. I could stay in my office and write or edit or do whatever I do. And my husband peeks in every now and then. So yeah, we have great spouses that they put up with our craziness.
Yeah.
What I liked about this book is, first of all, there's a lot of good information, but one of the things that it starts off with is portraits of salespeople, a portrait of a salesperson.
Yeah.
So I want to spend some time to talk about what this means. Before you get started, as a salesperson, as we were looking at this and talking about that, I'm categorizing myself, right? Am I a chump? Am I a champ?
I hope so. You got a little reflection going there, right?
And I will tell you, it really depends on the day. Or the month. I mean, I have had, I've been a champ for a month, and then the next month I'm a chump. So depending on how you work the processes that are out there for you, and I know you're about to talk about that. So let's talk about the portrait of a sales champ and what that means.
Yeah. So first off, for you, it's managing energy.
Mm-hmm.
Right. So if you look in the assessment, we did it 2 ways. We did the portraits because of that exact reason, right? How can we help somebody describe behaviorally, right, what they say and what they do, and put it into a portrait? Because we know the things that we say and we know the things that we do. And maybe sometimes we lie to ourselves and we tell ourselves that we're better than we are, or, we're more focused than we are. We're more disciplined than we are, right? We like to feel good about ourselves, and that's a good thing. But you also have to have a little bit of reality, all right? Especially if you're looking at consistency, right? Because if you look at the number one determinant of success for salespeople and for businesses is when you can find some consistency.
Right.
No business is going to survive if you do not have a consistent process for acquiring and then servicing business. You're just not.
Right.
You can do it differently every time, but then you're going to have one month where, well, why didn't that work? Well, if you go back to try and figure it out, you're not going to be able to know.
Right.
So by creating the portraits of a sales champ and creating the portrait of a sales chump, basically we created the 2 opposites,
sure.
Right? You're either a champ or a chump. Now, that being said, there's been times where I've been a champ and there's been times where I've been a chump. And that's how I know about the portraits, right? And sometimes, the chump can be about the environment that they're in. It can be about the company that they're working for. And it can also be about the boss they're working for.
Oh, I would 100% agree with that. Leadership is a big deal.
Research shows the number one reason people leave companies, they don't leave companies, they leave their boss.
Yeah.
Right. So, those types of things can also lead you to falling into chump land. Now, the biggest, most important area that a sales leader or a business owner can actually focus on in order to grow the business exponentially is the contender, right? Mm-hmm. Because the B player is almost there, right? So if we can get a B player to an A player status, they're going to perform 5x more. If we can get a C player to perform like an A player, that's 10x. Well, we've got people that are growing the business 10 and 15x at that point, and now we have a whole team that's doing that. When we have a team around us, Now we start to have what I call accidental success, right? Kind of like you can have accidental weight gain. Right? If you hang around a bunch of people that just eat and drink all the time, and you do what they do, and you say the things they say, day in, day out, you're going to end up becoming overweight.
Right.
Conversely, you can have accidental fitness. You hang around people that are fit, and you're going to end up getting fit. And it's the same way with success. So the portrait of the champ are the A players, the people that are successful. The portrait of the chump are the people who are really your C and D players. In a lot of ways, they're either in the wrong position, or they don't believe in the product or the company that they're working for, or they have the wrong boss. So, the primary basis for the book, and really, I've had some feedback on the book that says, this book is really not just about sales, it's about life.
Psychology, absolutely.
Right? Right. It's about the psychology of, how do I maintain this higher level thinking?
Right.
How do I maintain this ultimate performance state, which is what we call intuitive flow. So there's a lot of different mindsets that you have to build up to that. But the first and foremost is I have to be willing to help others and build others up. That's the primary piece.
That's number one here.
That's number one.
So I'm going to read that. So the portrait of a sales champ. Sales champs look to build one another up and create a positive and engaged environment. This includes friends, family, clients, and coworkers. You are absolutely right. And there's a psychology to that. I have a mindset that there is abundance. Abundance abounds. There's enough for everybody. When there's that feeling of lack, then people they pull in that they're not engaged. They're hoarding.
Protective energy.
Absolutely, that's very good. And so this really does describe someone who not only succeeds, but then wants to also watch, the team succeed. So I like that.
Right, and I'm here to help you. I'm not here to sell you something, right? I'm here because you have a need, you have an issue. All CEOs want to grow their business.
Right.
Everybody wants to have a great day. Nobody wakes up and says, I'm going to perform really crappy on purpose all day long today, right? Nobody intentionally does that. No, they don't. And even if they do, for one day, that's not the way they live their lives. Right. Now, we laugh at these characters in cartoons and things like that, right? But what actually sabotages us is when we get into oh, well, that didn't go the way I expected. Oh, well, this sale isn't closing as fast as I need. Or you have a boss who's saying, are you going to make your quota this month? And now suddenly I'm no longer in the sales meeting trying to help my buyer make the best decision for themselves. But now I'm trying to pressure them.
Thank you.
Right.
Yeah.
And I'm feeling that pressure from the top all the way down. And now sales starts to feel icky.
Right.
And then even the salesperson starts to feel icky. And then the next thing you know, you're just an icky salesperson. And you end up selling like a chump. And you're bitching and moaning and whining. You got a negative attitude. And all of a sudden you're like, well, this product or service is horrible. Everything is horrible. And that's where the chump starts to come into play. And the next thing that the chump will start to say is, well, we need a better price, right? Or they're looking for the next sales tactic.
It's everybody else's fault then.
They're looking for the next trick. It's somebody else's fault. That's where the blame game comes into play, low levels of accountability. And when I'm working with business owners, that's typically what they're dealing with.
Right.
They're like, these damn salespeople, they got this. Or you talk to the back office or to marketing, and they're, these salespeople, they got it so easy. It's really a toxic environment.
It is.
Yeah.
So what I'm hearing you say is that this is a culture within the company, but there's individual accountability for the salespeople and the leadership.
Right, because I can choose to hang out with people who eat healthy and work out regularly and have a good positive outlook on life, or I can choose to hang out with people who don't. But when you're going to work, you're kind of part of that culture. You're part of that environment. So, if I'm a good person and my intention is to go out and help others, and I'm very passionate about the product, I believe in it, I've got a message to share, and I'm going out to help people, and I'm not successful, there's something wrong there. And that also then points back to the culture. So
Okay.
when you read earlier that our average revenue growth is 47%, that's for the clients that we've been working with since we started Springboard, which was 2 years ago. We rebranded. I quit working for the larger consulting firms and started my own again.
Mm-hmm.
Surprise, surprise. But that 47% revenue gained is because we create a sales culture. And we call our program Sales Culture Engineering, because this is where it gets back to, it's not that the salesperson needs more training, right? If they've been on the job for 6 months and you gave them an onboarding program that was worth a darn, where you gave them sales skills and you gave them product and service knowledge, information, and maybe you gave them a mentor of somebody who's successful. After that 6 months, if they're not able to be successful, you really have to, as a business owner, start to look at yourself and look at the culture
Thank you.
and the environment that you're actually creating. And are you creating a environment where those salespeople can sell like a champ? Because if you have more than 50% of your team that's selling like a chump or contenders, we have this thing called deviating to the mean. Right? So now we're using some psychology terms where, if I have, 3 people that are A players and I have 3 people that are D players, well, I really can't say I have a high performance team,
Right.
right? The deviation to the mean is a C. So I'm performing at a C level.
Well, and I would agree 100%. One of the things that I wholeheartedly agree with is you surround yourself, I call it you're a product of the 6 people you surround yourself with,
Yeah.
or the group that you surround yourself with. And sometimes it's not a choice. Sometimes you are thrown into a negative environment. But I really appreciate, from my perspective, and I own a business. I've been a business owner. I'm in sales. I get all of those. I understand all of these puzzle pieces. But when there's something not working, I can't emphasize enough how important it is for that business owner or that company to start looking internally and then finding the resources like yourself who can bring to light some of those things without it becoming too personal or too painful to make a change, or too late. One of the things I noticed with some companies is that they hire these really emotionally mature, emotionally intelligent people, successful sales background. And then for whatever reason, those people don't thrive. And I think there's something else going on. And so one of the things that Springboard does is helps the companies take a look at themselves. Is that correct?
Yeah. I mean, engagement. If you listen to any of the marketing that you see on Facebook or LinkedIn, anything having to do with business, the newest thing is that Gallup studies show that only 30% of your workforce is engaged. Okay, well, that means that only 30% of your workforce is either an A or a B player. The rest of them are C, D, E, F, G, all the way down to Z. Well, in my opinion, that's a leadership issue. That's not a people issue. Right? So the leadership of the company needs to look at the overall engagement and say, okay, what are we doing? One of the prerequisites for people to work with us, for our customers to work with us, is that they have to care about the people.
Yeah.
There are consulting firms out there that are cutters. They can come in and they can show you where to cut. They can show you where to optimize. They can show you where to be more profitable. And a lot of times that comes at the expense of the people. And then you'll have the burnout, the rust out, the lower levels of engagement that come from that, right? You can only run lean and mean for so long.
Yeah.
And so there has to be that whole balance, that evaluation of the entire environment. And so when you're looking at total levels of engagement, if we can move that company from 30% engagement to 50, 60, 70, 80% levels of engagement. We were talking earlier about corporate wellness programs. Corporate wellness programs turn in 10, 15, 20% levels of engagement. Well, that's a leadership issue, right? They've put something in place to say, oh yeah, this would be good and we need to offer this from a benefit standpoint in order to compete for talent. But that's all that it is. Right. So how's that tied into the strategy of the organization? How's that tied into the overall cultural values of the organization? How are they measuring that? How are they supporting that as a leader? How are they painting that into the vision moving forward? All of those things have to be in place. And the same thing for salespeople, right? I mean, this all goes down. It's the whole culture, right? The whole culture has to come together as a team, and they all have to be at higher levels of engagement. They all have to be looking to be professional internally and externally. They have to be looking ways to help themselves and help the customer.
I wish we had more time. We're coming to the end, and one of the things that I do ask my guests is, what's the closing thought? Somebody's going to watch this and identify with much. I don't know if that's the way they're going to identify with a lot of what we've talked about. So, I don't know if you can wrap it up in a minute, but can you give us some idea?
I think the wrap up here is that you don't have to be stuck with what you get. Right? A lot of people think, well, I'm going to get 80% of my revenue from 20% of my sales force. It doesn't have to be that way anymore. There's actually, software, there's scientific studies, there's ways that we can measure performance thinking algorithms. We can identify what we call stinking thinking, and we can help people clear those out so that they are thinking in a different way, which when they're thinking in a different way, they're thinking like a champ. And we've got some champ talk in the book, things like that, but it's basically a different perception on the way that you move forward. When you create an environment that has champs versus chumps, then you create an environment that everybody can be successful in, including the customers. When that happens, you get abundance, you get attraction, you get people wanting to come work with you, you get that whole word of mouth thing that everybody talks about. So it's worth it. Your people are worth it.
Well, I appreciate you. If somebody did want to buy the book, and do want to learn more about Springboard Consulting, how would they do that?
Right now, it's www.selllikeachamp.com and also www.springboard.consulting, not .com. We're non.com, springboard.consulting. Either one of those two websites. If you go to selllikeachamp.com, you're going to see some offers coming up in January for how to use the book to build a high-performance team and some other great offers for how to build your business down the road. You can also call me at 972-977-2140.
Say that number again.
972-977-2140.
Evan, I feel like we could do another show on this. One of the things that I would love to do is bring you back and talk about the application behind this.
Yeah.
Because psychology is one thing, right? We're speculating, we're talking about people and behavior, but application is so important. So thank you for being here. Thank you for your expertise and knowledge. You've been watching DFW Spotlight on Business with Heidi Hardy, and we're going to be back next week. Looking forward to seeing you again. And my tagline, don't forget to live your real life passionately. Have a good week.